We're joined now by Jordan's ambassador to the UN, Dina Kawar, to give us a little bit more on this. Good to have you with us. Thanks very much for taking the time.
Thank you.
One of the things really underscored by this draft resolution is the division between the Arab Gulf states and Russia in all of this. Of course, the resolution went through, but nevertheless, is this division something that is going to get in the way of a broader, more comprehensive solution to the crisis in Yemen?
Well, I don't think so, because eventually Russia did abstain and did not veto the resolution, which they could have done easily. And throughout all of the negotiations, which I have been following very closely with our GCC friends, the Russians have been trying to discuss and negotiate certain points. There was a little bit of conversion on certain things, but obviously at the end of the day, we managed to get the resolution with 14 votes for it. So I wouldn't say that. I know there were many discussions about Russian disapproving, no, but they are not completely with certain points of the resolution.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? There are two major differences between you. On the humanitarian pause, Russia wanted a complete ceasefire, and on the arms embargo, you've applied it to 5 key figures, 3 Houthi leaders, but Russia wanted an arms embargo that would be applied to everyone in the conflict, all parties of the conflict.
Yes, that is. But at the end, we did manage to get it through. And as I said, the Russians did not veto, so that was okay. And normally in negotiations, there's a lot of discussions. So what has happened is very normal. However, concerning the humanitarian pauses, we've managed to agree at the end. And that's very important to underline, that we will be asking the Secretary General to coordinate with the Yemeni government to make sure that that does happen, because it is a concern for all of us, including the GCC members. But it shouldn't be seen like the humanitarian pause was a concern only of the Russians. I think it's a concern of everybody.
But would a total ceasefire not be better for civilians on the ground in Yemen?
Well, eventually, it's a ceasefire and no violations by the Houthis and them staying in their place, that would have been great. But it didn't happen, unfortunately. And here I speak in my own personal capacity as Jordan, because, as you know, we have the presidency of the council, and I wish to speak in my own national capacity. Obviously, we have discussed this before, and we have passed other resolutions for the Houthis to cease fire, to empty the government buildings, not to take any hostages or detainees of government officials, and to go back to the negotiations, because there's the GCC initiative, there is the implementation mechanism, there is the national dialogue. But all of that was unheeded by the Houthis, and therefore we've arrived to where we have arrived. And now in this resolution, we're asking that the Houthis do go to point A, which means go back to the negotiations and evacuate all the areas they have taken.
Why would they agree? Why would this resolution succeed where previous calls have gone unheeded?
Well, let's hope that it does, because it's under Chapter 7, and we are putting under sanctions some members of the Houthis, some members of their supporters, and what we call as spoilers. So we have to wait and see. We're given 10 days for this to happen. And if not, we have to decide, and the GCC governments and the coalition has to decide together. But again, the problem is not the coalition. The problem is what has been happening on the ground for a long time. And I need to also underline the really very bad role of the spoilers in all of this, who have been behind
and
the
of course,
Houthis.
Dina, Ms. Kawar, you mentioned there the importance of the Houthis laying down their arms and withdrawing from all governmental institutions, and particularly from the Yemeni capital, Sana'a. But of course, there are other parties to this conflict. You said the problem isn't with the coalition, but of course, the airstrikes are continuing. What will a continuation of the airstrikes achieve that a total ceasefire and some sort of negotiation that starts now wouldn't achieve?
Well, the thing about the coalition, and one has to make this very clear, that there have been weapons set on the borders of certain neighboring countries of Yemen, which is a little bit of what we could call threat to these countries. So the coalition has a plan of certain weapons and armaments that need to be destroyed for them to be able to say, now this is enough, we have to go back to square one. So that is what we are waiting for in one. Another thing, we're hoping that the Houthis would realize that what they're doing will not bring them anywhere, and that the only solution is to go back and discuss what they have been wanting to discuss. What has happened since, I would say since September, is that they have been doing on the ground something and then pretending to be negotiating. And here in the Security Council, we've been listening to the envoy special of Ban Ki-moon, who has been on it for months and months and months to try to find a solution. But nothing has happened, because while they would say, we need this, we want to negotiate, we want that, on the ground we were seeing that they were expanding and taking over military equipment, some security equipment, and putting hostages, yes.
Right. Well, Ambassador Dina Kawar, thank you for joining us live from the United Nations.
Thank you. Thank you.